On the map of Saudi Arabia, there is a place that looks like a blank space. Desert, mountains, the Red Sea, a stretch of land known for centuries only to Bedouins, fishermen, and caravans. And yet it is here that something is rising which is meant to become the greatest urban experiment of the 21st century. NEOM, a city which, in its design, is not really one city at all, but a miniature world. Each of its parts is a different story. The line, a narrow 170-kilometer line of the future, where life is meant to unfold inside a corridor of steel and glass. Oxagon, a factory on the sea, the world's largest floating industrial complex, where cutting-edge technologies are supposed to meet the water. Trojana, a ski resort in the mountains of the desert, where snow falls not from the sky but from machines, and winter games are meant to prove that dreams are stronger than climate. Sindala, an island of luxury, where yachts and golf courses are meant to shine brighter than Monaco and Dubai. NEOM is not a city. It is an idea poured into concrete, glass, and visualizations. Saudi Arabia says it is the future: smart technologies, renewable energy, climate neutrality, and life without cars. But critics ask, is this really the future? Or rather a spectacle in which the facade hides inequality, greenwashing, and the hard work of thousands of migrant workers? From the very beginning, NEOM has stirred two extreme emotions. Some see courage in it, proof that the Arab world does not have to keep chasing the West, but can become a pioneer in its own right. Others see hubris, an attempt to build a paradise for billions of dollars, even if the price is nature and people. Abdul Rahman talks about NEOM with a spark in his eye. This is our legacy. Something that will stay forever. The world will remember that we built a civilization of the future in the middle of the desert, Aisha answers calmly. But is a civilization of the future just luxury for the few? Wouldn't it be enough simply to learn to live more wisely, instead of creating illusions that fall apart at the first crisis? The last episode in this series about NEOM is a prologue to a question far bigger than the city itself. A question that sounds like this: can humanity build a future that truly serves everyone? Or are we only building new stage sets for the chosen few? At the source of NEOM stands a man whose name has barely left the headlines in recent years: Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, better known as MBS. It was he who, in 2017, announced that in the far northwest of the country, something would rise that the world had never seen before. A project worth hundreds of billions of dollars, intended to change not only the face of Saudi Arabia, but civilization itself. Why NEOM? Because Saudi Arabia has lived off oil for decades. Oil was everything, the source of wealth, political power, and social peace. But MBS knew very well that oil is coming to an end, if not physically, then politically. The world is turning towards renewables, economies are changing, and dependence on the golden commodity is becoming an ever greater risk. That is why in 2016 Vision 2030 was born, a reform plan designed to free Saudi Arabia from its oil dependence. And NEOM was its most spectacular showcase. At conferences, MBS spoke a language that sounded more like a futuristic manifesto than a political speech. This will not be an ordinary city. It will be a place where the future becomes the present. NEOM will be a laboratory for the world, a space where we create things others cannot yet imagine. The grand vision rested on three pillars. First, technology, artificial intelligence, robots, renewable energy, a system without cars, cities without CO2 emissions. Second, tourism and entertainment. Projects such as Trojana and Sindala were meant to bring in people and money from all over the world. Third, the industry of the future, Oxagon as the heart of a new economy built not on oil, but on technology. But behind this vision, there was also an image problem to solve. For a long time, Saudi Arabia was perceived through the lens of conservatism and restriction. MBS wanted to change that, to show young people that the future is here, that the country does not have to be only desert and oil, but can become a place that inspires the whole world. NEOM was meant not just as an economic project, but as a kind of national therapy. proof that Saudi Arabia can dream and can make those dreams real. Abdul Rahman talks about this with enthusiasm. This is our new beginning. MBS is giving us more than a city. He's giving us pride and a place in history. Aisha replies, cool and composed. But can you really build the future on renders and visions? Isn't it an illusion that ordinary people will pay for, while the elite travel the world boasting about their dream? The grand vision of Prince Mohammed bin Salman is the foundation of NEOM. It is a vision that weaves together politics, technology, tourism, and ambition. But it is also a vision that provokes questions. Is this a project for people or for reputation? Will NEOM become the beating heart of the future, or a monument to the ambitions of a single man? From the outset, NEOM was marketed not as a city, but as a laboratory. In Mohammed bin Salman's eyes, it was supposed to be an experimental zone where the world would come to see what the future looks like before it becomes the present. It was not just about buildings, roads, or infrastructure. It was about an idea. Saudi Arabia wanted to say, if you want to see what the world will look like in 2050, come to NEOM in 2030. On slides and in presentations, the slogans were striking. Artificial intelligence running the entire city, transport without cars, 100% climate-neutral urban design, education based on VR and AR, healthcare supported by nanotechnology and robotics. NEOM was meant to be a place where every aspect of life would be redesigned from scratch, from the way we eat and receive treatment to the way we work and rest. One of the most ambitious ideas was the concept of a city without streets and cars. In the line, everything was meant to be within a 5-minute walk, and transport would be handled by high-speed underground trains, carrying residents from one end of the line to the other in 20 minutes. A vision straight out of science fiction, a world without traffic jams, without exhaust fumes, without chaos. NEOM was also supposed to be a laboratory for renewable energy. The entire project was advertised as a city powered 100% by sun and wind, with hydrogen as the fuel of the future. This was how Saudi Arabia wanted to reverse its narrative, from oil exporter to global leader in green energy. But behind every vision lies the same question. Is this actually possible? Can you really build a city fully controlled by AI, where residents' privacy depends on an algorithm? Can you build climate neutrality in the middle of a desert, where every drop of water must be desalinated, and cooling buildings consumes vast amounts of energy? Isn't this laboratory of the future, in fact, a giant testing ground where residents will be the guinea pigs for technologies that would never pass trials anywhere else? Abdul Rahman says with pride, "The world will learn from us. The model for future cities will be created here. Instead of copying the West, they'll be copying us." Aisha responds skeptically, "But do we really want to be test subjects? Is the future worth it if we have to hand over our privacy to algorithms and live in a city that exists only because someone designed it on a screen?" NEOM as a laboratory of the future sounds impressive. It is a story about a place that is supposed to change the way we think about cities, technology, and nature. But it is also a risk because laboratories are where experiments happen, and experiments can succeed or fail. The question is whether the inhabitants of NEOM will be pioneers or the victims of tests designed to impress the world. Type NEOM into Google and you'll see images that look like stills from a science fiction movie. Shimmering towers in the shape of a line stretching across the desert, a port on the water where robots arrange containers in perfect harmony, skiers racing down slopes that look like the Alps transplanted to Arabia, islands full of yachts and futuristic villas, visualizations designed to inspire and hypnotize. But when you go there, the picture is different. In 2025, NEOM is still mostly a construction site. Desert where you see trucks, diggers, foundations, and unfinished structures. In the line, you can see the beginnings of giant excavations that are meant to become the foundation of a 170-kilometer wall. In Oxagon, the first quays are operating, but instead of futuristic robots, ordinary cranes unload containers. Trojana is still largely on paper, and Sindala is only just starting to take shape, even though the ads already show it as a finished paradise. That gap between the facade and reality is something we've seen with every mega project in the Middle East. For years, Dubai sold an image of luxury, while workers lived in barracks on the outskirts. Before the World Cup, Qatar spoke of innovation, while the world looked at photos of laborers in the heat. NEOM is the next chapter in the same story. A world that already exists in glossy brochures, but, in real life, is barely emerging from the sand. Saudi Arabia understands PR very well. A render moves faster than concrete. Computer graphics are cheaper than steel. The world looks at the visualizations and starts to believe that NEOM already exists, even though, in practice, foundations are only now being poured. This is the psychology of investment. You have to sell the dream first to find those who will believe in it. Abdul Rahman puts it bluntly. Every great dream starts with pictures. You have to inspire people before they see the foundations. Aisha answers dryly. But how many will be disappointed when they arrive and see desert instead of a city of the future? Aren't dreams just decoration then, hung over a bare construction site? The facade of a NEOM works like a magnet. It attracts the attention of the world, investors, and the tourists of tomorrow. But the reality is raw and unforgiving. Sand, concrete, sweat, and years of work. And within that gap between image and truth lies the biggest question of all. Will NEOM ever become what was promised? Or will it remain another desert mirage, beautiful but impossible to grasp? From the start, NEOM has been a global project, not just a national one. That is why opinions about it come from all over the world, and each sounds different, depending on who is speaking, from where, and with what interests in mind. In the West, NEOM evokes mixed feelings. For part of the media, and some investors, it is the biggest urban laboratory in history. Visions of the line or Trojena are described with admiration, and architects and tech firms compete for contracts. But alongside the admiration are sharp questions about human rights, about the fate of migrant workers, about the forced eviction of Bedouin tribes from the land cleared for construction. Environmental organizations call NEOM the most expensive greenwashing project on Earth, and some Western newspapers write bluntly, "This is not the future. This is Disneyland for billionaires." In Asia, the narrative is different. Countries such as South Korea, Japan, and China look at NEOM above all as a market. Tech and construction firms see multi-billion-dollar contracts. Chinese consortia supply surveillance and transport technologies. Korean companies design infrastructure. Japanese conglomerates negotiate energy projects. For Asia, NEOM is an opportunity. Ethical and ecological questions are secondary. In the Arab world, the emotions are different again. For many young people in the region, NEOM is a symbol that the Middle East does not have to be just a story of wars, conflicts, and oil. It is a project that shows you can dream of a future in the language of technology and luxury. But alongside excitement, there is jealousy and skepticism. Egyptians ask, will our Red Sea coast become a forgotten backyard next to NEOM? In the UAE, people quietly wonder whether Saudi Arabia is trying to steal their role as regional leader. And ordinary people across the region watch with distance. They know that most of them will never live in NEOM. At best, they will see it on television. Environmentalists sound the alarm. They say NEOM is a blow to nature. Building the line means destroying habitats for animals and plants. Oxagon threatens the Red Sea ecosystem. Trojena and Sindala are artificial worlds that swallow water and energy on a scale hard to imagine. But their voices are often drowned out by Saudi Arabia's powerful PR machine. The business world looks at NEOM through the lens of money. For corporations from the US, Europe, and Asia, this is a gigantic contract market. Roads, railways, hotels, energy, and digital infrastructure. Billions of dollars that may flow into their accounts if they accept Saudi terms and join the game. Many calculate coldly, even if NEOM never fully succeeds, the contracts will still pay off. Abdul Rahman echoes the enthusiasts. At last, the world sees us not just as a country of oil, but as a pioneer. This is our moment, Aisha answers with the voice of critics. But if the world looks only through the lens of contracts and pretty pictures, Does it really see what is happening? Does it see the people who were pushed off their land and the nature we are destroying? The voices of the world show that NEOM is not just a Saudi project. It is a global mirror in which everyone sees something different. Some see the future, others see illusion, some see opportunity, others see threat. The truth lies somewhere in between, in the sand, in the concrete, and in the dreams that are only just beginning to take shape. When you look at NEOM, it is hard to stay neutral. Some see courage in it, an attempt to build something that has never existed before. Others see arrogance, a project trying to cheat nature and prove that money can do anything. And that may be exactly why NEOM divides opinion so sharply. Courage. Because it does take courage to declare that, in a desert country, there will be a car-free city, a port on the sea, a winter resort, and a luxury island. It takes courage to invest hundreds of billions in something that might fail instead of sticking to familiar patterns. It takes courage to say, we don't want to be just a state of oil, we want to be a symbol of the future. For young Saudis, this is a signal that their country is not standing still, that it can dream of a world in which they are the pioneers. Hubris, because just as easily you can see in NEOM a sign of human arrogance. Winter built by machines, a sea turned into a Gulf destination, a desert pierced for 170 kilometers with glass and steel. Hubris is the belief that humans can create a better nature than the one they were given. Hubris is the eviction of Bedouin tribes to make room for the prince's vision. Hubris is greenwashing that tries to sell luxury as sustainable, when its foundations are billions of liters of water and gigawatts of energy. Abdul Rahman says, "This is our step into the future. If it works, the world will speak of Saudi Arabia as the country that dared to dream and act." Aisha replies, "But if it fails, the world will remember us as those who tried to buy the future instead of building it, and who left behind a desert full of ruins." Perhaps this is the real symbolism of NEOM, that it cannot be judged in a simple, one-word way. It is a project that combines dream and illusion, strength and weakness, courage and hubris. Like every civilization that tries to push past its own limits, NEOM can become a milestone, or a warning. History is full of such projects. The pyramids, symbols of the divine power of the pharaohs, which today are also monuments to pride and forced labor. The Tower of Babel, which was to reach heaven and ended up as a myth warning against human arrogance. But there are also Manhattan, Dubai, or Singapore, places that prove that sometimes courage really does create new worlds. Will NEOM join the list of wonders, or the list of warnings? That is a question we will only be able to answer in a few decades. For now, it remains the largest mirror of our age, in which some see courage and others see hubris. NEOM is not just an urban project. It is a 21st century epic whose chapters are playing out in the desert, in the mountains, and at sea. Each fragment of this story tells something different, but together they form a picture of an era in which humanity wanted to prove it could do more than nature itself. The line, 170 kilometers of glass and steel, is a vision of a city where life is meant to be orderly, fast, and intelligent. For some, the answer to the chaos of today's metropolises. For others, a corridor that will bring not freedom, but claustrophobia and control. An experiment that could just as easily become a model for the future as a warning that not every vision translates into real life. Oxagon, the industrial heart of NEOM floating on the water, is a promise that technology and ecology can go hand in hand. But it is also a question. Can we really talk about a green factory when its foundations are steel, concrete, and thousands of cargo ships? Oxagon highlights the contradiction of our era, the dream of sustainable development in a world still driven by industry and consumption. Trojana, a winter resort in the desert, is a symbol of courage and madness at the same time. Snow that does not fall from the sky but from machines, lakes built in the mountains, winter games in a place where summer is relentless. A project that inspires admiration and, at the same time, seems to mock the basic logic of climate. Trojana tells us, humans are ready to manufacture climate illusions just to prove there are no limits. But it also asks, what price will nature pay so that we can take a few photos for social media? Cinderella, the island of luxury, is a stage on which the global elite will play. Yachts, golf courses, concerts, and nightclubs, a paradise meant to shine brighter than Monaco. But this paradise is built on the work of thousands of migrants who will never rest on the beaches they clean. Cinderella reminds us that luxury is always selective. It shines for some, but casts others into shadow. All four parts of NEOM, the line, Oxagon, Trojana, and Cinderella, are like four faces of the same civilization. Faces that fascinate and disturb at the same time. Because NEOM is not just a city. It is a mirror of the 21st century. In that mirror, we see ourselves, people who want to live faster, more comfortably, more beautifully, but also people who risk in chasing dreams, losing contact with what is natural, necessary, and human. Abdul Rahman says, "This is our pride, our future." The world will speak of Saudi Arabia as a pioneer, Aisha answers, but is this a future for everyone? Or will it turn out that NEOM is a city for the chosen, and for the rest only a mirage seen from afar? NEOM is courage, because no one has previously tried to build a city that is, in its entirety, a project of the future. But it is also hubris, because humans have come to believe they can fully replace nature and design life like an app. And perhaps that is why NEOM is so compelling. It evokes the story of the Tower of Babel, a structure intended to reach the heavens that became a symbol of human arrogance. But it also evokes Manhattan, Dubai, or Singapore. Proof that sometimes boldness really does shape new worlds that change millions of lives. Will NEOM be the new wonder of the world, or a monument to ambition that crumbles back into sand? Will it become a model for the cities of the future, or a warning to those who forgot that nature does not like being toyed with? For now, one thing is certain. NEOM already functions as a grand narrative that forces the world to talk, and perhaps that is its greatest success so far. That even before it has been built, it has become a symbol. A symbol of the 21st century, a century in which humanity dared to dream so high that we still don't know whether it will soar or fall.